What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and it's time for the playoff eliminator after week 9 of the college football season. And I have made the decision I'm going to be moving everything back over to the Sports Gaming 1 channel. So if you're not subscribed to that channel, make sure you do so. There'll be a link down in the description below. And again, all these videos are going to be moving back to that channel. I'll explain that at a later date. But this week, we'll finish up this week here on the SG1 Sports channel. And again, after this week, everything will be moving over there. The playoff eliminator, the upset alert, all of that. So make sure you subscribe to that channel if you want to continue to see these kinds of videos. And again, I will explain exactly why I'm doing this. I'll do a channel update at a later time. So let's get into it. Here are the teams that have already been eliminated. And yes, there are some 2-loss teams that we have to start looking at. I'll probably start next week. We'll see how this next week plays out. But then next week, I'm probably going to kind of bring some of these back from the dead. Especially the one that really jumps out to me is Auburn, because they could potentially beat Georgia, Alabama, and then Georgia again. You win all 3 of those games, you're the SEC champion, and you're probably going to get in the playoffs. Iowa State is another team that maybe could get in there if they win out. Plus, we don't know how chaotic it's going to get with these other teams. Are we going to have a bunch of 2-loss teams? Are we going to see more upsets? So that we really don't know. Again, next week, we'll start looking at those teams, but for now we're going to keep them in that eliminated category. And this week we eliminated 3 more teams: Michigan State, NC State, and Washington State. So all 3 of these teams now with their 2nd loss of the season. Michigan State, you still got Penn State and Ohio State coming up, so maybe you can make an argument for them if they can come back and win the Big Ten. It's unlikely though. NC State is going to be tough with that first loss to South Carolina. Both those teams lost to Notre Dame, ironically. And then Washington State, I think, is out of it. You lose to Cal like they lost. I don't think there's any coming back from that. And then they get that loss to Arizona. So our top contenders, we're going to start here. The first slot is going to be, it looks like, the winner of Alabama and Georgia in the SEC Championship. Again, this is assuming that everything goes according to script and there aren't a bunch of upsets and things like that. Alabama and Georgia, it looks like they're going to face off. I know Auburn is going to have something to say about it, especially against Alabama, but who's going to challenge Georgia in the East? It doesn't look like anybody is. I mean, the only possible team, I guess, could be South Carolina, maybe Kentucky, but it's very unlikely. I don't see them having any problems with those games. So that's one spot. We're going to see, somebody, the winner of that game, probably go take the first spot. Ohio State and Wisconsin. Now we have 2 Big Ten teams left. I think they both control their own destiny. They if everything goes according to plan, they will meet in the Big Ten championship game. I don't think Wisconsin can afford a loss, though. I think Wisconsin is not going to make it if they lose a football game because of the weak schedule. So they really need to win out. I guess they could lose a game, and then if they win the Big Ten championship, maybe there could be an argument there. But it looks like those 2 teams will meet in the Big Ten championship game. Winner will move on to the playoffs. And how about the ACC? It looks like the champion of the ACC could very well get in. We got Clemson, Miami, and Virginia Tech. Obviously, Miami and Virginia Tech play this weekend. The loser of that one is probably eliminated. If it's Virginia Tech, I do think they're eliminated. Miami still would have a chance. I mean, it's a small chance, but if they come back, beat Notre Dame, win the ACC championship, maybe against Clemson, yeah, they could maybe get in there, but that's pretty much an elimination game coming up Saturday. And then Clemson, as long as they can get by NC State, I don't really see any real hurdles for them, so they could be going to the ACC championship with a spot in the playoffs on the line. So that's what it looks like. 3 of the spots are going to go to. How about the final spot? And we're going to rank these in order. I think right now it's looking like it's going to be the loser of Alabama and Georgia. That's assuming both teams win the rest of their games, and it's a close SEC championship game. And then number 2, I've got Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think, has the best case after those teams, and possibly, I think Notre Dame could get in over Alabama if Alabama loses to Georgia. Especially, if Georgia was to win that game by 10 or more points, something like that. I think you could make the argument that Notre Dame would get in over Alabama because they both have a loss to Georgia. That'd be their only loss. And Notre Dame definitely has the better resume, the better quality wins. So we'll see what happens there. I think these first playoff rankings coming up are going to really tell us a lot about what the committee is going to do moving forward. And then if Notre Dame was to trip up as well, the next spot I think would go to Oklahoma, TCU, or Oklahoma State. If one of those teams continues on with one loss, wins the Big 12 championship, especially Oklahoma, I think, would get the next shot. And then Penn State. I think Penn State, if they win out, I still think they have a real good shot as well. And it's very possible that the Big 12 is going to beat up on themselves. It's possible Notre Dame's going to lose a game. And, maybe Georgia loses to Auburn and then loses to Alabama. Or, there's a lot of things that are probably going to happen. History tells us that it never goes according to plan. So I don't think Penn State is out of it at all. I think they need to win, though, and win their games convincingly the rest of the way. And then Washington is the next team. I think they need a lot of help. The non-conference schedule is absolutely terrible for them. The Pac-12 is not looking good. They're not going to have really any quality wins. Their best chance at a quality win now is going to be maybe against USC in the Pac-12 championship game. So they need USC to win the rest of their games. Washington needs to start blowing teams out. But right now, I just don't see a path for Washington unless they get a ton of help. And I would even put a one-loss Penn State in over a one-loss Washington, who is a Pac-12 champion, just because of the schedule. So that's it for this week's episode. Again, next week, we're going to start looking at some of these two-loss teams, possibly. Again, looking at Auburn, maybe looking at Iowa State, maybe Stanford. It's unlikely a Pac-12 team gets in, but we'll look at all that coming up next week. So that video next week will be on the Sports Gaming 1 channel, so make sure you subscribe to it. Link down in the description below. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports and over on the Sports Gaming 1 YouTube channels.